listener production.
Hi, Sacha Barbour Gatt with you. Welcome to The Briefing. If you could, would you ditch the algorithm that decides what you see on social media? And do you think that could help stop the radicalisation of young boys to harmful misogynistic content?
Most of our young people, and particularly our young boys, they're not bad people. They don't want to see this content. No one's born a misogynist. They're socialised into one.
In today's Deep Dive, we discuss the new campaign to fix our feeds. But first, it is time for the headlines with Chris Spiru on Thursday, the 4th of December.
Hey Sash, and to you listening, Brittany Higgins says she feels as if she can breathe again after Bruce Lehrmann lost his latest defamation appeal, where he was seeking to overturn a ruling that found he, on the balance of probabilities, raped her in Parliament House in 2019 after a night out. While the defamation case was brought against Network 10 and journalist Lisa Wilkinson over an interview on The Project in 2021, in which Higgins claimed she had been raped, the former Liberal Party staffer said, in reality, this was once again a rape trial. In a statement posted to her Instagram last night, Higgins went on to say it was re-traumatising to have her rapist weaponise the legal system against her for daring to speak out, adding that it was a common legal tactic being used by perpetrators around the world to silence victim survivors.
Lehrmann has always denied he sexually assaulted Higgins, and while he didn't appear in court yesterday, his lawyer said he was overwhelmed by the decision and was considering whether to contest it in the High Court. Now, that would be the final spot he could appeal it. He's now facing $2 million in costs from the original trial plus the cost of the appeal, and it is expected that he will file for bankruptcy. Lehrmann is also due to front court again today, this time in Hobart, charged with stealing a Toyota Prado in November 2024, something he has also denied.
And if you want to get your head across everything to do with Bruce Lehrmann and Brittany Higgins and all the multiple cases that are involved in this, we actually did a 2-part deep dive not too long ago. We'll pop a link to that in the show notes.
We were supposed to be seeing eased inflation and interest rates in 2026, but now the government's being told we're on a collision course to those increasing next year. Not the news we wanted to hear as we're wrapping up 2025. The Reserve Bank's governor says government spending could hurt us by continuing to drive up costs and the cash rate.
If there is less savings in the economy, and that includes by the government as well as by the private sector, and at the same time investment doesn't come down, so all other things equal, then that would put a bit of upward pressure on the neutral rate.
That was Michelle Bullock speaking at Senate estimates yesterday. Quarterly government spending has continued to increase, up 2.6% year on year.
While Australia's economy has expanded by 2.1%, the fastest growth we've seen in 2 years. During questioning, Bullock admitted that global pressures outside Australia's control are also putting pressure on inflation. The Reserve Bank will meet for the final time of 2025 on Tuesday, during which it's expected to keep the cash rate on hold at 3.6%. But economists say that trend is unlikely to continue next year and we should brace for hikes.
Overseas to Hong Kong now, where a 1-year-old baby has been confirmed among the 159 dead a week on from that deadly apartment block blaze. Police say they now have completed a search of all 7 buildings in the complex of high-rise residential towers, which became engulfed in flames, taking fire crews 2 days to extinguish.
31 people remain missing, with forensic teams set to examine remains found inside the apartments. It comes as authorities there have ordered the removal of scaffolding mesh from buildings being renovated, with concerns the nylon material contributed to the rapid spread of flames.
Investigators say it failed to meet flame retardant standards, and 15 people have been arrested so far by Hong Kong police for manslaughter as investigations continue.
And look, we did receive a DM from one of our listeners, Amanda, who was actually in Hong Kong in September, and she actually mentioned that she noticed this bamboo and material covering a bunch of construction sites around the country. So it'll be very interesting once these investigations wrap up to see if that's a similar site people will be seeing next year.
According to authorities there, around 300 buildings are going to be impacted by having to have this nylon meshing removed. And we know that bamboo scaffolding, they had that in their sites before this fire broke out. So you're right, it might look very different come next year.
Back home now, a controversial $1 billion stadium in Hobart has secured enough support in Tasmania's parliament for it to become a reality. The roofed waterfront stadium is a prerequisite to Tasmania joining the AFL for the very first time. And now that it's received the backing of key independents, the Tasmania Devils are one step closer to entering the league.
Yeah, it's extremely exciting. It's a great opportunity to be
part of a state that's going to be real tribal.
That was Matthew Knights from the Tasmania Devils Academy there. And it's also a decision that the state's Premier, Jeremy Rockcliffe, has also welcomed.
It's a huge opportunity for us in terms of economic, in terms of jobs.
So, yeah, we've heard there from people who are excited by this prospect, but this has been highly controversial, and the pending approval of the 23,000-seat stadium has been fought by anti-stadium group Our Place Hobart, which says the fight isn't over, and it's calling out its $1.1 billion price tag. We also had tears on the floor of Parliament yesterday. Independent Beck Thomas said it was the hardest decision she's ever had to make to vote in the affirmative of this stadium, saying she gave her support after the government said it would cap its spending at $875 million, but also boost funding for grassroots sports.
I really hope that in time you can come to understand the reasons for my decision.
Yeah, so really highly emotional. And yeah, the people of Tasmania, there's huge issues locally with the health system, with rentals, and I think the attitude is, well, we should be helping people get through day to day rather than stressing about Tassie getting an AFL team.
And Spotify has dropped its 2025 Wrapped with Bad Bunny named the streamer's top global artist of the year. He scored 19.8 billion streams this year, and his album, don't want to ruin this one, Debí Tirar Más Fotos, was
correct.
Also named the most popular of 2025. Rounding out the top 5 artists, we had Taylor Swift in second, followed by The Weeknd, Drake, and Billie Eilish.
And the biggest song, Chris, a favourite of you and I this year.
If the world was ending, I'd wanna be next to you.
Yeah.
What a tune.
Die with a Smile by Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga. Then Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. Apathy by Rosé and Bruno Mars. Ordinary by Alex Warren and Bad Bunny's DTMF, which we heard at the top there. In Australia, though, the honour for the best song went to the global number 4.
So this world will be ordinary. You got me kissing the ground. Sanctuary.
This one was a big TikTok song, Chris, this year. People doing lots of inspirational vids to it. Our top artist was Taylor Swift. Now, interestingly, on Spotify's website, when I was looking through all of this, they spelled her name wrong. Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Taylow. They'll probably fix that by the time this is published.
Yes, and as to podcasts, The Briefing sadly didn't make the top podcast globally.
Damn.
That went to Joe Rogan, little old Joe Rogan over there in the States. And look, a fun aspect of this year's Wrapped was giving streamers their listening age. So, Sash, my listening age came in and I was quite taken aback. My listening age is that of a 35-year-old.
I can beat you there, mate. 67.
Yes.
Hello.
And why was that?
Well, I don't know. I think I had in my top artists, I had Fleetwood Mac and the Beatles, so
Yeah.
maybe that's why. But my top artist, I'd like you. I've got a little secret grab there for you to hit play on.
Hands in the air.
Rock-a-bye bears now asleep. Now, this is because
Wow,
I gave...
motherhood's changed you, girl.
It really has. My son, I've been singing this to him since he was born. I was staring at him one day and I went, shit, what's a song I know? And that was what came out, and he is obsessed with Rock-a-bye Bear.
Wiggles fan.
Yeah, so my top artist, The Wiggles.
The Wiggles, yeah. Look, my top artist went to Lady Gaga.
Oh, good.
I devoured that album this year. I absolutely loved it, and a bunch of her tracks are in my top 5. Actually, coming in second for my album was Miley Cyrus, Something Beautiful. That also highly recommend. And just a Greek artist. I'm not going to say the full pronunciation because no one really
I want to
cares
hear it.
about.
Come on, hit us
Look,
with the Greek.
it's called To the Como DNA by Caterina Liolio.
Hey, I'll be checking that out. I can't wait.
Absolutely loved it.
And we'd love our listeners to go check out their Wrapped, because you might see a little message from yours truly, maybe in your top podcast. If The Briefing was one of your top podcasts of the year, hopefully you'll be hearing from us. And that is it. We wrapped Spotify and now we're wrapping the headlines today.
Nice one.
Next up, it's my deep dive looking into a new campaign to fix our social media feeds. Have a listen next. Social media has changed a lot since we were first picking our top 8 friends on MySpace and choosing what lyrics to put in our MSN usernames. We used to only get content we'd decided we wanted to see by following a person or a page. Sure, some things would be pushed onto our feeds, but it was stuff that was globally popular and unlikely to represent hardcore fringe views or beliefs. Think cat videos and flash mob proposals. These days, though, there's a little thing called the algorithm, and whatever it thinks we want to see, it'll deliver. And the problem with that is it not only creates echo chambers where we are constantly fed the same sort of content, views and ideas, it can also lead to unhealthy viewing habits for people who are vulnerable. Of particular concern is the manosphere and creators who push extreme misogynistic, homophobic and violent content, and how that is radicalising young Aussie boys. So, a new campaign is launching to try to get the Australian government to let us opt in to the algorithm, reverting our feeds to what they used to be, posts from people and pages that we've chosen to follow. Chanel Contos is the founder of Teach Us Consent, which has launched the campaign to fix our feeds. She's joining me now. Our social media feeds have become completely driven by algorithms, and we're kind of told they're these big, uncontrollable beasts that, there's no having any say over what it feeds us. But you're saying that can change. What are you pushing for when it comes to our algorithms on social media?
What we're advocating for on social media is to make it so that users can turn their algorithms on and off whenever they want. And what's important about this policy, because it teaches consent, we're all about affirmative and enthusiastic consent, is that we want to make it so that the default when you download a social media app is for there to be no algorithm on that app. And then if you choose to opt in, you can then switch it on and off at will after that. I think what's really important about this policy is that this change will be something that if you don't want to use it, you do not have to, because all we're trying to do is increase choices for Australians, increase choices for parents who are maybe worried about what their 16, 17-year-olds are seeing online. And honestly, for an average Australian thinking, I'm a bit overstimulated, I need a weekend off, I'm going to turn their algorithm off and just refocus on the people that I actively follow and the accounts that I actively choose to look at.
Okay, so how do you envision that might work in the app? Would it just be like a settings feature and it's like a toggle, like you literally go algorithm on, algorithm off?
I mean, that's what we're imagining, and that's the ideal. It will obviously be up to the tech platforms how they decide to implement it on their user face. But the idea is that it's as simple as a quick click of the switch. But once you do click it, that remains that way until you unclick it. So it's not as if you close the app and then open the app, it reverts back to original default algorithm mode, which intentionally pushes content to keep you online for longer. And through that engineered mechanism, it means that content that does invoke strong emotions is prioritized.
One of the specific concerns that Teach Us Consent has with the algorithm is the manosphere and people like Andrew Tate and the content that they create. Why is it that has driven this campaign?
So Teach Us Consent is a violence prevention organization, and we're extremely concerned with rising reports from teachers across the nation, from parents, and also from young boys themselves about misogynistic content that they are seeing online. Content that used to be extreme and radical is now being brought into the mainstream. There's been studies conducted that show within 23 minutes and sometimes less of signing up to a social media app, young people, young boys specifically, are being exposed to this sort of content. And we say Andrew Tate because we know Andrew Tate, but for every single Andrew Tate, there's another 1,000 of them. And then for every one of them, there's another 1,000 of them. And we can't play whack-a-mole with these characters. What we need to do is change the systems behind what's pushing them out and making them so appealing to young boys and men. And what we're seeing with this rise in misogyny and misogynistic attitudes being reported across the nation from people who work with young people or people who are responsible for young people is we're seeing statistics go up. So teen-on-teen perpetration of sexual violence is at an all-time high. And devastatingly, child sexual abuse is now most commonly perpetrated by a teenage boy in Australia. And that's a statistic that I don't think we can take lightly and that we should see as an opportunity for change. And I really think we need to try everything we can. And I think there is an appetite for regulating algorithms and putting power back into the hands of Australians, because I think we are getting kind of sick of having our brains mined.
Let's say you do turn off the algorithm, or you're a parent and you turn off your teenage son's algorithm. Can't they just search up the content anyway if they want to see it?
Yes, they can search up extreme misogynistic content, but the thing is, most of our young people, and particularly our young boys, they're not bad people. They don't want to see this content. No one's born a misogynist. They're socialized into one. And the problem is this unintentional, well, it's not unintentional, it's unintentional for the user and it's very intentional for the platforms that they're being targeted and propagated this sort of content. And we're kind of seeing that pipeline of radicalization that is completely comparable to radicalization of other kinds.
Okay. Do you think there's a benefit to the algorithm? Because you're not arguing that we should get rid of the algorithm altogether. You're saying, hey, it exists. Sure, that's fine. You can stay on it. But if you want to, you can switch it off even just for a weekend. So what is the benefit to even having an algorithm on social media then?
I mean, algorithms can be really fun, right? It's hyper-personalized content. It's entertaining. I personally love my TikTok algorithm. I think if this policy came in, I would keep my TikTok algorithm. Instagram algorithm, I think, would probably just go because the way I use Instagram is more to connect with friends, whereas I do like seeing content from people around the world on TikTok. You know, sometimes it can be really handy for people to get hyper-personalized ads. And I will admit that it's become very normal for our generation to be really comfortable with data being sold and to be like, this is helpful because it reduces how long I have to spend on my shopping list and Christmas list because of just getting it sent to me. I think there's lots of benefits to algorithms if they're helpful to the person. We find cooking recipes, we find interests, we find groups of people we want to relate to. But there can be harms. And again, this is the thing, it's all about choice. If you're someone who feels as though your algorithm is not serving you, if it's not helping you, if it's not reflecting your beliefs and what you know is right, and you're finding it hard to turn away from that, I think another really good content, we're speaking a lot about young boys and men because that is the driving force of this campaign behind Teach Us Consent, given the fact violence prevention is our focus. But a lot of young girls and women of all ages are very intentionally targeted content that promotes disordered eating, unhealthy relationships with the self and body image and things like that. And if you suddenly get in that rabbit hole and you're like, I actually don't want to be here, that means you can just turn it off.
Why are you pushing for this now?
We're pushing for this now because the Online Safety Act is up for review with the government. This is an opportunity to get something in here. Because another thing I really want to emphasize about this policy is this might not be a tool that you want to use now, but it might be a tool you want to use in 3 years. And we might not have the chance and the kind of governance around a formal government process of updating these laws and looking at what safety looks like online then. So again, it will just be an option and you can use it in 3 years, you can use it in 2 years, you can use it in a weekend if you want it, but it is prime time because the government is thinking about this at the moment. And we know that we've had a lot of conversations nationally about the social media delay. And the overall discourse has been, this is an initial step and we need to look at what else can be done to prevent harm on this online space. And we do truly think that this is another great tool that can be added to that step.
Now, as part of this campaign, you've written an open letter to Anthony Albanese. Have you heard from him or anyone else in the government to discuss the idea of switching off algorithms?
The Australian government is very open to having conversations with us about this, and we're very keen to continue that discussion and take the wants and desires of Australians and push that directly into their hands so that they can consider this as they're updating the Online Safety Act.
Mm-hmm. We know that the platforms, Meta, TikTok, etc., are extremely reluctant to change. You know, you have to kind of force them into anything, as we're seeing with this social media ban. Is legislation the only way to get something like this over the line? Is there any indication that we might see these platforms play ball without needing it to be legislated?
Algorithms can self-regulate, but they haven't. And ultimately, they're profit-driven companies. And some of them have various features that, you know, tokenistically nod to this concept. But I think it is really important that we legislate it because then it means that ultimately it's up to them. And the only people that really can put that on them is the government. I think a lot of tech platforms benefit from the fact that the average Australian believes that they're hard to regulate. That narrative is useful to them because it lets them hide behind a wall of like, not us, we don't want to do it. But actually, they're one of the most malleable, adaptable businesses possible because they can update their user interface at any time and the tools on it and the experience of it at any time. We should be confident in the fact that it is possible for this to happen. And maybe they would go and self-regulate and that would be great. And I would celebrate that, especially if it was something that was implemented globally. But it doesn't look like they're willing to do that themselves.
This campaign is actually already successfully run in Europe and they have rules around this in the EU. Do you know if they're seeing any results yet that would give us hope that it could help drive down the perpetuation of that horrible content, things like the misogynistic stuff from people like Andrew Tate?
So it's very early days with the EU implementing this policy. So this would keep Australia very ahead of the curve in terms of the global landscape of online safety. But the other thing I want to emphasize that's slightly different around this is what the EU has done has made it that you can turn off the algorithm and opt out to it when it's already there. This would be a world first leading policy that prioritizes affirmative consent by opting into it and making that the default is these social media platforms do not have algorithms to start with. Again, given the national conversation going on right now about social media and teenage usage, we find this also particularly important to provide a softer landing for young people onto social media and to make it so that you're not instantly addicted when you download an app. I'm speaking a lot about young people, but I think there's probably a lot of listeners that can also relate to concerns around older people in their lives and the way the algorithm is impacting their views, maybe like lower media literacy skills because they're not used to the digital landscape, meaning that, a lot of mis and disinformation is being believed and also spread, and also going down rabbit holes themselves. So although Teachers Consent is a youth-focused organisation, we really do see this as a policy that could be beneficial across the board to society, whether you're someone who doesn't like your feed, have gone down a radical hole, you're worried about someone in your life who's consuming content that you don't think they should, or again, if you just want to switch off and have a break from engaging in this system that's like constantly trying to grab your attention.
Yeah, it's such a good point as well, actually, with how widespread something like this, the impacts could be really beneficial to all sectors of the community. Chanel Contos, thank you so much for joining us on The Briefing.
So lovely to be here. Thank you so much. Please go to teachersconsent.com to sign an open letter if you want to be part of this and call on Albo to let us fix our feeds.
That was Chanel Contos, the founder of Teach Us Consent, speaking with me there. And if you do want to sign the open letter to Anthony Albanese, we have dropped a link to that in the show notes below. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Briefing. I'm Sacha Barbour Gatt. We'll catch you next time.